3 active projects can look healthy until everyone is waiting on a different invisible decision. A proposal needs a price, a product needs final assets, and a client build needs approval, but the day fills with partial tasks that make none of them safer. The cost is not only delay, it is the steady erosion of quality, because every project is competing for the same unprotected attention. The Lockstep ledger fixes one decision first: what is allowed to be active? Its diagnostic question is simple: what proof would make this project visibly safer by Friday? The output is a one-page ledger where each live project has one inspectable proof: a protected capacity token, a visible risk, and a review mark. Work stops being a fog of responsibilities and becomes a set of commitments that can be seen, challenged, and changed. Solo operators often respond to overload by adding more lists. A task list captures fragments, but it rarely decides which project has the right to consume the next clean hour. That is why the problem persists. The symptom is a messy board. The cause is unpriced commitment. A project can sit beside 10 others with no visible distinction between an idea, a promise, a block dependency, and a true priority. The loss is practical. Dates become guesses. Quality checks get compressed, and opportunities are accepted before the week can absorb them. The unresolved question is not how to remember everything. It is how to prevent remembered work from pretending it is committed work. The ledger separates holding from locking, so a project can be acknowledged without being allowed to drain execution capacity. The Lockstep ledger has 3 surfaces. The holding area catches projects that matter but are not yet active. The locked row contains no more than 3 active projects as a practical default, not a universal law. The proof strip shows the next inspectable output for each locked project: a draft, a decision-ready estimate, a testable page, a delivered outline. The mechanism is deliberately narrow. It does not manage every detail inside a project. It controls 3 decisions that create the most confusion for a solo operator: whether a project is active, what output proves progress, and what must be reviewed before the next cycle. This matters because vague motion is easy to overvalue. A proof card forces the project to produce something that can be inspected, rejected, sent, or used. Attention becomes tied to evidence, not anxiety. The first rule is the lock rule. No project becomes active unless it has one inspectable proof due inside the next 7 days, and at least one protected capacity token assigned. Use it when a project competes with other work for execution time. Do not use it for tiny errands that can be completed immediately or for exploratory ideas that have no commitment yet. The proof must be visible enough that another person could inspect it without hearing the whole backstory. Work on launch fails. Finish the checkout test sheet passes. The rule works because it forces a reversible commitment before a larger commitment grows around it. It fails when the proof is so large that it hides several decisions inside one card. The decision changes from "should I work on this?" to "is this proof clear enough to deserve protected capacity?" The second rule is the proof slice rule. Break the next project, move into the smallest output that reduces risk, without pretending the whole project is smaller than it is. A useful proof slice is not merely a task. It changes what you know. For a sales page, the proof may be a rough page structure reviewed against the offer. For a client migration, it may be one tested transfer path before the full move. The trade-off is friction. Creating proof slices feels slower than writing a long task list because it asks what must be learned first, but it prevents a false sense of progress from accumulating in low-risk busy work. The rule fails when every slice is chosen because it is easy rather than consequential. The selection criterion is risk reduction. Pick the slice that would make the next decision safer. A solo educator is launching a paid digital workbook while maintaining weekly client work. The visible constraint is 12 usable production hours before the cart must open. In the ledger, the launch sits in the locked row only after it earns a proof, a complete checkout path with one sample purchase and the first workbook module attached. 2 capacity tokens go to that proof. The holding area keeps secondary ideas, such as bonus templates and a welcome sequence redesign, out of execution. The decision is to protect the checkout proof before polishing the product library. The action is concrete. Build the payment path, attach the file, send a test receipt, then inspect the result. The trade-off is a less elaborate launch package. The output is an end-to-end purchase path that can be tested. The takeaway. When time is tight, the ledger favors the proof that makes the project real. At the midpoint, run a 30-second ledger audit. Look at every locked project and ask, what proof would make this project visibly safer by Friday? Then check for 3 objects beside it, the proof, the token, and the risk mark. If one is missing, the project is not ready for active attention. The third rule is displacement before addition. When the locked row already has 3 projects, a new opportunity cannot be squeezed in by optimism. One project must be finished, paused with a restart proof, or deliberately displaced. This rule works because solo capacity is a physical constraint, not a preference. It fails when everything is treated as equally urgent, because then displacement becomes emotional instead of operational. The decision changes from, can I also do this, to what existing proof will I delay, and is that trade-off acceptable? A freelance systems consultant is organizing a client onboarding project while also maintaining 2 retainers. The visible constraint is a client workshop scheduled before all source files arrive. The ledger locks the onboarding project with 1 proof, a working intake map built from the files already received, plus a risk mark for missing access. 1 capacity token is assigned to assemble the map. The plan breaks when the client sends partial files late and adds a new stakeholder. The first proof is incomplete, so the weekly close record's the friction source. Dependency arrived after the work block. The next similar decision changes. Future onboarding projects do not lock a workshop preparation proof until access is confirmed or a fallback proof is defined. The trade-off is less immediate confidence in the schedule. The output is still useful. A partial intake map and a revised access checklist. The takeaway. The ledger does not prevent disruption. It converts disruption into a better next lock. The most common misuse is turning the ledger into decoration. Beautiful cards do not help if the active row is crowded, the proof is vague, or the review never changes the next decision. Another failure mode is token inflation, adding imaginary capacity because the project feels important. Respond by removing tokens until they match real work blocks on the calendar. A third failure is over-slicing, where the operator breaks work so finely that every proof is harmless. Respond by asking whether the slice reduces risk or merely produces motion. The framework also has a boundary. It cannot resolve a bad offer, a missing skill, or an impossible deadline. It can only expose those conditions earlier so the operator can renegotiate scope, pause work, seek help, or decline the commitment before quality is spent invisibly. Return to the original tension. 3 projects are active, but none is protected unless the ledger can answer the diagnostic question. What proof would make this project visibly safer by Friday? First, keep a holding area so remembered work does not impersonate committed work. Second, lock no project without a 7-day proof and a real capacity token. Third, slice for risk reduction, not for the comfort of easy tasks. Fourth, displace before adding when the active row is full. Fifth, close the ledger by comparing the promised proof with the actual output, then change the next similar lock. The transformation is observable. instead of scanning a crowded task board and choosing by pressure. The solo operator sees which projects are active, what each must produce next, and what trade-off the week is already making. That is how multiple projects stop competing in the dark.